Hi, my name is Shawn Johnson, and today I'll be talking about paying student athletes. Current PGA Tour golfer Phil Mickelson has been one of many saying that college education is significant. However, college athletes don't really receive the benefits from the value that they bring into the universities. Meanwhile, the universities are flourishing and the NCAA is flourishing, causing many in the sports world to question the NCAA's rules, their motives, and everything that's about them when it comes to amateurism. If you look at the value that these students bring in, they're essentially being shortchanged. As far as the amateurism, according to the NCAA's website, it's their idea of keeping keeping their players eligible. These rules basically do not allow them to accept prize money, work with an agent, work with any professional teams, or have a salary. So anything that would seem like an impermissible benefit, that's what they cannot receive according to amateurism. Through the years, there have been countless amateurism violations. One of the most major violations was Shabazz Muhammad back in 2012, 2013. He was the star standout player for the UCLA Bruins. His family basically received some money in his recruitment process, and he was ruled ineligible for that season. Meanwhile, the league has continued to flourish. Their president earns over $1.7 million a year, and the league just posted a $1.1 billion revenue in 2017, yet they still can't find a way to pay their players. Now that we've discussed amateurism, let's look at how the universities have flourished at the same time. Texas A&M back in 2016 showed a $194 million revenue. Even in our backyard, Florida Atlantic showed a $32 million revenue. The University of Texas, has continued to show 160 million, 170 million revenues. That's all driven by football in all three of those locations. But interestingly enough, if you look at the University of Texas, they've only spent around $10 million per year in scholarships. So there's still about a $150 gap there, $150 million gap, I apologize. Also, if you look at how coaches have really played a role in this, if you look at the United States, all 50 states, 39 of the 50 states have coaches, both football and basketball coaches, as the highest paid person in those states. Nick Saban, for example, is the highest paid individual in all of college football. He's the highest paid individual in the state of Alabama. He makes 160 more times than that of the average student public school teacher in Alabama. Meanwhile, numerous individuals in the professional sports world have acknowledged that there's a need for discussion on changing these rules, changing this amateurism thoughts. If you look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he's the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He's been one of many to acknowledge that the people creating the wealth for these universities are not the ones that are receiving it in the end. That was in a discussion, actually a debate he had with Newt Gingrich with Bleacher Report. At the same time, in a conversation with CNN Money, Adam Silver has been another one of those individuals that acknowledges that scholarships don't necessarily cover the entire cost of tuition, which then leaves individuals both with a gap in the value that they bring into the university, and on top of that, they're walking out of those universities with debt. And it's not an ideal situation for anyone. Now, if you look at how Forbes, for example, there's an individual, Mark Edelman, he pointed out that Division I student athletes, spend 43.4 hours per week, according to his studies. Meanwhile, you compare that to an average work week, that's only 40 hours. So student athletes are spending 3 more hours per week dedicated to their craft, yet they're not receiving any payment for it. Meanwhile, you look at a conversation that Dave Zirin had. He's the sports editor for The Nation with NBC Sports. He was saying that if you just liquidate the NCAA's assets, you have $85 million that you can then spend for your players. Now that we've discussed the different areas, whether it's the universities, whether it's their amateurism rules, or even the sports outlook, let's recap. Amateurism, if you look at it in its essence, it really restricts the athletes. The universities and the NCAA benefit off of this, and on top of this, many have called for change. However, we still don't have any change, and these students are bringing in revenue, and nothing is coming back to them in return. And if you look at their current value, under these current rules, these athletes are essentially being gypped. Thank you.